everybody, it is Dr. Fresh Hour here with Fresh Start. And before we dive into this video for women on some exercises they should do and should they weight train or should they not, and what's the desired appearance or physique, right? Maybe we have some misconceptions of how it should actually be and to be healthy. So here's my website. My plans are right here. I have two main plans, basic and premium. And basically we talk either once a week or twice a week kind of thing. And the 30 minutes is closer to 45 or an hour until I fill up my schedule. But I'm kind of trying to not fill it up too much so that way I'm a little more flexible. As always, the videos will be posted, like this one will be in the video section. The donation button does work. So let's dive into this. So Healthline came up with 10 great upper body exercises for women. And in reality, in my opinion, men and women should train roughly the exact same, right? Women have to be more careful at the end ranges of motion because they're more flexible, but not necessarily always more mobile, which is a little different. Mobility is active range of motion. Flexibility is passive range of motion. Like I can move your arm really high over your head. That's flexibility, that's passive. Can you move it just as far over your head? That's active, that's mobility. And a lot of physical therapists, trainers, personal trainers, doctors, physicians, everybody agrees that the greater the difference between your flexibility and mobility, the greater the percentage or likelihood that you are going to injure yourself. So they go through some great exercises. Isolation with a little bit of core stability, a better exercise and a good variation. I don't like your hand position. Then we go into another isolation exercise for postural muscles. That's an amazing exercise, by the way. This one's pretty great. I don't necessarily like how far out and flared her elbows are. It looks great, but the further out your elbows are, the more you're just engaging the back of your shoulder. The more tucked your elbows are, the more you're engaging your lats, which are, like your biggest muscles in the back side of your body besides your butt. Wall angels are amazing for men. For women usually have a great range of motion. But one thing that these can actually do that people don't talk about is they can help you be more symmetrical whenever you're pressing, especially women, for some reason, shy away from barbells. So if you're using dumbbells, doing something like this can help develop that movement pattern. So when you press with weight, you've already been through this enough times to know the exact range of motion that you like and stuff like that, right? Chest press. Finally, we get into something a little bit more compound. Compound means involving more than one muscle group. Now, in reality, unless you're doing a machine in a lab, like the mamby-pamby, or not mamby-pamby, but like Candyland, something like not realistic. It's really hard to just isolate one muscle. But in reality, when people say compound exercises, they just mean exercises that involve more than one muscle group. So your chest and your triceps are doing a lot of work here. Her feet should be firmly planted on the floor, and she's going to be driving and getting force from her feet all the way up here, which I know seems a little weird, but when your feet are firmly planted on the floor, we're now not necessarily relying so much on this to stabilize us. We have stability here. And despite what trainers in the late 90s and early 2000s want to tell you, doing stuff on Bosu balls and on one leg while spinning a plate on your toe and training on an unstable surface does not necessarily have as many benefits as one might think. Sure, it might make you really coordinated and great at doing a curl while standing on a Bosu ball, but in real life, it doesn't really do that much. It's not like we walk around on water beds or something like that. Mountain climber is pretty advanced exercise. Can be explosive, can be slow. You can make it more like a stretch. That's extremely difficult. A front raise, great. So we're training our anterior delt. That's the muscle that we hit on every single upper body exercise that we ever do almost, unless we're pulling. I really don't think women or men need to be doing this at all. However, something like this is great, because if I'm upright, I'm hitting more of my mid or lateral kind of delt, right? That's the middle shoulder muscle. You have anterior, mid, posterior, okay? If I lean forward a little bit more and do the exact same exercise while making sure to not anteriorly rotate my arm, I'm now hitting my posterior delt. Great, okay. So here's what I would say are some great exercises. Here's a body weight dip on a bench or a couch or a chair. I think her hands should be facing out a little bit more to open up her chest, incorporate her chest a little bit more. I think once you get to this point, you can actually push and depress your shoulders and scapula even more and get your serratus involved. You can even push more on one side and twist a little bit to get your serratus involved. that is a great exercise, very safe. If you can't push up, if you can get yourself into that position and then lower yourself down, now you're doing an eccentric version, which is kind of the building block of doing a concentric version. So to be able to push up would be concentric. To be able to lower yourself down would be elongating or eccentric, right? Next up, a body weight squat. And you're like, wait, this is a girl video. Well, sorry, he had a great picture. He has a nice flat back. His knees are traveling over his toes a little bit. Ideally, you want to have at least 5 inches of travel for good ankle mobility. Horrible shoes to squat in, but whatever. He's doing a bodyweight squat. I don't necessarily think your head needs to be dead straight up. I kind of am all about alignment with the spine. But this is kind of one of those, just, you can do it with a broomstick. You can do it with a wall. You can hold on to anything that you want to hold on to. And you might only get 45 degrees of movement or range of motion in the beginning. You can progress, right? So next up is we can all do pull-ups. And this blurry image is a modified pull-up, showing that you can put a bar between two things and try to pull yourself up to it. And you can bend your knees, and by bending your knees like this, it makes it a little bit easier. And the reason why I like this so much is women shy away from pull-ups a lot, unless they're like a gymnast or a CrossFitter or something like that. I don't know why. Your upper body's not, it's androgenic, right? And you don't have as many androgens, or you're not as androgenic as men are. That's why women and men have different upper bodies. And that's why we have different fat like profiles and stuff like that. But all related to hormones. However, women, they should still be able, I don't know if they should bang out a bunch of pull-ups or something like that, but they should be able to do a modified pull-up. It's extremely beneficial. Guys, we don't have boobs. Women, you have boobs. Boobs are going to pull you forward, get you over here and closing off your shoulder capsule, and everything's out here. So we need to open ourselves up. And any version of a modified pull-up is amazing. Okay? Pulling is great. It's great for everybody. And we don't do enough of it. We do too much pushing, and we're so out front. This is great. So next up is a deadlift. This is a Romanian deadlift. They're neglecting to show that he starts at the top of the lift. However, you can do this with soup cans. You can put this behind you to keep your knees slightly flexed and not stiff or straight. Like, that's a different lift entirely. I like the Romanian deadlift because it starts in an upright position and lets gravity load your spine, lets you take a deep breath, and then descend into the movement. I think it's really great. Almost better than a regular deadlift for activities of daily living or life, and for normal people. Might not necessarily promote as much hypertrophy and strength, but it's extremely safe, and it gets you used to bending over. And you don't have to go down that far, right? When you pick stuff up, you either have to, set the weight up on something to simulate or reducing the range of motion. I don't know. This is just a really great exercise, and it's called the Romanian deadlift. Highly encourage you guys to start experimenting with it. And the progression would be a single leg. You're not going to look perfect like this doing it, but just, Anyway, next up will be a glute bridge. We're spending all day in pelvic flexion, so I think it's very great to work on pelvic extension, working all of these muscles that we neglect all day. And very few people walking around hurt their quad or something. Like, usually it's your lower back or your butt or your hamstring, right? This is an amazing exercise. Anybody can do it. You can do it on the floor. You can wrap a band around you. And you can even do it with one leg when you want to progress. Next up would be a march. And you can do this standing, or you can do this seating, where you're sitting like this and you try to lift one knee up as far as you can, keep the other leg straight. Next, you could have that foot off the ground and do it. Lots of progression and possibilities here, but in reality, we do everything every day on one leg. So why wouldn't we train that way? A little bit, work on the hip stability. Look how our hips are stable. Most people, when they lift one leg up, this is down or up. And so anyway, just, that's my 2 cents. So moving on from the exercises, I just thought, I don't know, I thought it might be nice to throw some people some of my opinions and some things that they should be doing. So does lifting weights make you bulky? The short answer is no, unless you're taking a lot of steroids, especially though if you're a woman, extremely difficult to get bulky. So let's see, women typically have lower levels of anabolic hormones, and I think they are going to show them right here. So anabolic, estrogen, you have some of that. Insulin, yeah, it's pretty anabolic, but it's anabolic everywhere. Growth hormone and testosterone, those are the big ones, and women don't have as much of them. So anyway, genetics, diet, body type, exercise, low volume, intensity, I get it. That all plays a role. But at the end of the day, hormones really control everything, and we have a little bit of control over them. And some of the people I'll show you later on take a little bit more control into them. But here they go into, does it help you lose weight? So in order to lose weight, technically you have to be in a caloric deficit. And the calories in is pretty standard. The calories out is really where all of the play is. How efficient of absorbing nutrients is your gut? How inefficient is it? What's your basal metabolic rate? How is your thyroid hormone, your testosterone, your estrogen, your growth hormone? You know, like, I don't know. The calories out is where you really play. So burning more calories through exercise, extremely difficult. You really burn off like a few mouthfuls of food every time you exercise. But you do have a little bit of a thermic effect that after exercising that lasts a little bit longer. Some people overplay that. Some people don't really talk about it. So eating fewer calories and increasing physical activity. Eat less, move more. One of the most ineffective ways of ever getting anybody to lose weight ever, because we just think we can burn off all the stuff we eat. When in reality, our diet kind of levels us out, and our exercise improves our hormone profiles and our lean body or muscle mass. So that way we are burning more calories. It's kind of like, you know, hitting it from more than one angle, right? Trying to move more to lose weight, extremely difficult. Cardio is just one of those ways to burn a few more calories, get yourself in shape. Lifting weights is a way to feel better. If you really want to lose weight, it's a good idea to have some form of cardio like a walk, some form of resistance training, which I just showed you can do at home or at the gym, and then a remotely good diet. And then fasting and stuff like that is a great tool to help you with all of those individually. So let's see, you'll appear leaner. Anytime I add a pound of muscle onto your body, you are technically less fat. You have a less percentage of body fat, right? Muscle makes things tight too. It's really hard to find someone with a lot of muscle who's kind of flabby and they put their arm up and it's like, blah, 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 you know what I mean? When people have muscle, it keeps things firm. It does what Spanx do without the spank, I guess. And when you're stronger, you feel better, obviously. Lower risk of chronic disease, especially after you hit menopause and your estrogen, all the benefits of that. Women start struggling with the same conditions that guys do. They lose their muscles, sarcopenia. They have arthritis because estrogen's joint protective. Now they're menopausal, and it's like lifting weights, improving your bone density and hormone profiles, and even getting a little bit more of an anabolic effect from resistance training, all counteract the effects of aging, menopause, premenopause, etc. So they give you a really horrible exercise plan, but that's not really what I'm here to talk about. The bottom line, weightlifting is beneficial for women at any age and will not make you bulky. Extremely difficult unless you take steroids. Rather, it can help you create a lean and stronger look. Men lift weights a lot. There's a lot of guys at the gym that lift all the time, and they are almost never bulky and giant unless they take steroids. So the fact that it's almost, I'd say at least 2 or 3 times harder for women to gain any muscle at all outside of, their lower half, which women's lower bodies can be extremely muscular. Why would we assume that you can get bulkier? It's basically impossible unless you take some form of a steroid, which for women, sadly enough, it's really easy to tell when they take steroids. So yeah, start strength training, follow a high protein diet. High protein diet, strength training, amazing, right? Squeeze in more sleep, obviously, and now we're getting into like some other stuff. So, all right, I want to give you guys a few examples of women and give you my opinion. And some people might be like, oh, well, that's way too skinny. Other people might be like, oh, that's what I want to look like, right? So this is someone who's clearly on anabolic steroids. This person is probably amenorrheic. She's not having a period. Her quads are gigantic. Her abs are blocky. Shoulders are gigantic. Her lats are huge. She is shredded and jacked. She is a big girl. And I don't mean that like in a negative way. She's trained harder than most of us will ever train in our lives. But she's clearly on steroids. It's obvious, right? And some women might look at that and say, that's gross. And some might say, that's what I want to be. That's not naturally achievable unless you are a complete genetic freak, which in that sense would be a compliment. So here we go. Here's kind of like Instagram, TikTok, whatever. Obviously a little unnatural, but we have, a little bit of a line in the abs, some definition here. Quads are popping a little bit. This, in my opinion, probably achievable. However, extremely unlikely to be achievable naturally because she is extremely lean. Extremely lean. You know, look how chiseled this is. I mean, minus surgery, I don't know, maybe a nose job and some other stuff going on here. All I want you to know is this is kind of getting closer to realistic. I mean, obviously ignoring the upper body augmentations. This is something that probably most women can have. You know, her shoulders aren't gigantic. Her abs are nice and flat. She's a little bulky here, but that's kind of sometimes a giveaway. But like, yeah, legs are looking good. She looks athletic, right? Next up, this is not natural. This is impossible. You will never be able to reach this level of physique as a woman naturally. It's impossible. Her delts are gigantic. Look at these muscle bellies, and it's just this level of leanness. She is probably extremely unhealthy. Nails, hair, all that stuff starts to go away. Definitely no periods, anything like that. Which, you know, for some women maybe that's what you want. But this is due to years of abusing steroids and having an insane work ethic and diet. I don't want to take that away from her, right? Okay. Now we're getting somewhere where it's like maybe this is just a short person who used to do gymnastics. Maybe they power lift. We have naturally broad shoulders because you can just tell clavicle's pretty long here. We have quite a bit of pec development, which for women takes a long time. But you see how she's not super dry? And when I say dry, think of that. That's like really leaned out. There's a lot of separation here, right? But here it's like, okay, this looks nice and hydrated. We got a little line here. We have some shadows here because they know how to take pictures. Some veinage going on here. Ooh, a forearm vein. We're getting into that area of maybe this is more, she's trained her whole life. She was a gymnast, a swimmer, something. Maybe that's just genetic, right? Okay, this is an Olympian. I don't really see gigantic striations and separations here. Legs, okay. Yet this is one of the fittest women on the planet. So, next up, another one of the most fit women on the entire planet. I think this is a pole vaulter, right? Pole vaulters, in my opinion, are kind of like gymnastics. Like gymnasts are physically some of the most, physically superior women on the planet as far as the, pound for pound strength. Pole vaulters, it's like an insane amount of coordination, from sprinting to upper body strength and just overall fluidity. I think it's really great. Or maybe, yeah, I'm pretty sure this was a pole vaulter. But look, like not a ton of separation in the abs, barely visible. The legs are looking all right. I mean, they look great, right? And then we have not really, you can't really tell the separation of her bicep and her tricep, but like, this is a lean person. This is one of the fittest women on the planet. She's in the Olympics, so if she does steroids, she has to be really good at it. But this is like achievable if you work your whole life to become the best that you can possibly be. Yet we see this and we're like, man, I don't know about that. But that's because we see this and this and this and this. And it's like, that's just, it's the same thing for men. And it's extremely damaging psychologically. It messes with our expectations, messes with our goals. They're not realistic at all. But this is an insane physique for a woman. This insane physique for a woman. If you're really short and you did gymnastics and you power lift a lot, you probably could look like that. Your diet might feel a little bit miserable, and maybe you dabbled in Anavar or some SARMs at some point in your life, but whatever, However, this, not necessarily that likely to be achieved, okay? Anyway, at the end of the day, all I want to say is, for women, do not be afraid to resistance train. When you resistance train, you're doing yourself a huge favor, especially 10, 20, 30 years down the road. You're going to look leaner. The more muscle you gain, the leaner you will look. This chick is packed with muscle, but you know what? She looks really lean. This chick, tons of muscle, but she's long and a little stretched out, and people will be like, she looks skinny. That's great, I want to look skinny. And it's like, no, in reality, you don't want to look skinny. You don't want to look like that, unless you do. Maybe you do. I don't know. But you want to look athletic. You want to look healthy. And even though this person right here would be a little difficult, she looks healthy. She looks hydrated. She doesn't look like, her skin is paper thin and she's about to, just stroke out or die of heat exhaustion. She looks healthy, right? So anyway, I'm not saying that you guys are going to look like that or whatever, or even if you want to. All I was just giving you some extreme examples of maybe some stuff to look for whenever you're idolizing the random fitness influencer. And for guys, it's even more obvious in my opinion, a lot more obvious. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I gave you some exercises. We got to talk about maybe a little bit about how you should train as far as some ideas. We talked about what to really expect in body image and things of that nature. We talked about a little bit into the hormones. But yeah, just kind of a random hodgepodge of a video because it got brought up in conversation yesterday and I thought it'd be a little bit of fun. So anyway, I am Dr. Freshour with StartFreshMD.com and the Fresh Start Initiative. And I'm signing out. Have a great day, everybody.